Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Jeff, the guy from Reston, or Jeff as in Jeff, T T.G.F.R, which is an abbreviation for Jeff guy from Reston. Anyways, we're going to talk about what's going on now with the riots and everything that's going on uh, after George Floyd and what that led to. And was this the straw that broke the camel's back, or was this an excuse to get people out there to riot and protest and destroy the inner workings of American cities around the country? Um, we need to understand that. We need to basically turn around and make this an understanding thing. However, we are going to make some things that the mob and the American city is not going to but we are going to make these notices, and we are going to make them now. I'm looking them up online right now. So, excuse me. Okay. Well, now, anyways, we're back, and boy, I hate this. Don't you just hate it? All these notifications, they come in, and it's not even important news. It's just on your phone. Anyways, here's what's going on, guys. Rayford Brooks. All right, let me get this straight. I have it looked up here. Rayshard Brooks. He was the man who was arrested, or was trying to be arrested by police, when he was resisting arrest and fought the police officers and turned around and grabbed one of the officers' tasers and ran away with it. And then while he was running, turned and pointed the taser at the officer who was pursuing him and fired. And that police officer turned around and returned fire with his pistol. That was a justifiable shooting. However, I've had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she felt that that was unjustifiable. Of course, she was never in law enforcement. She never worked in any type of security or law enforcement apparatus. So, most people that have not worked in it don't understand what law enforcement does and why they do what they do, and why certain parameters take place of why police do the things they do while they're on duty. And it may seem alien to most people who basically don't understand, because they've never been in a law enforcement type of field or work. But, unlike the other incident that happened in Minneapolis with, what's the guy's name? I can't think of his name now. But where he was arrested by the Minneapolis Police Department, and the one officer basically had his knee on the man's throat. And yes, we all agree that was horrible. It shouldn't have happened, but this guy should not be getting a flag on his coffin, and he shouldn't be getting the same status as, say, a veteran who basically died in combat for his country. This was wrong. Yes, the officer should be held accountable that did this. It shouldn't have happened, and they should have been more susceptible to the other man that they were trying to arrest at the time up in Minneapolis at the time, because this is not Rayshard Brooks. It's another officer. Let me see. Let me pull that up here real fast. That's Minneapolis. Right. So I'm looking here on the computer here to find out where That's the person's name is George Floyd. George Floyd was arrested um, for passing a counterfeit $20 bill at a convenience store. George Floyd was then arrested by the police. While he was in custody, he should not have been treated the way he was treated. Uh, they should have handcuffed him and put him in the back of a car, and then that way, basically, that didn't happen. Um, I don't know what was going on, why he was on the ground still in handcuffs when he should have been pulled up and put in a should have been put up in the car, and then this would have happened. I don't know if this was the bad judgment of the officer. I don't know what happened. We'll never really know what happened. All we could see what was on the video cam that we saw. Two officers were actually involved. Were both two officers were on top of him. One officer had his knee on his neck. The other officer was like standing over uh, on where his behind was and putting pressure down there, so he couldn't get up. Like I said, I don't know what happened. I don't understand. I'm not going to try. What I do know is the fact there was history between the one officer that arrested him, that his knee on his neck, and Mr. Floyd, and they both worked at a nightclub. They both knew each other. So the thing was George Floyd, was high on drugs, and he was passing counterfeit $20 and passed a counterfeit $20 bill. Anybody could overlook the passing of a counterfeit $20 bill, because sometimes it happens. You might end up with a counterfeit $20 bill, and it might get passed to you by somebody else. It might get passed to you by a banking institution that, because sometimes banks aren't foolproof in determining their money. So that's the reason why. But, and if you must know, people need to understand something. This is not an excuse to riot. This is not an excuse that there is racial inequality in this country. And the Black Lives Matter people and a lot of these rioters and protesters that are protesting, I've come to the conclusion that they want white privilege, or what they deem as being white privilege, whereas you don't get abused by the cops. Well, let's talk about that, okay? The white privilege, okay? I go to a bank and I put out an application and I get a loan. If my credit rating is subpar, like under 700, yes, my application will meet some resistance. If I don't have a job to pay off this loan, my application will meet some resistance. Okay. Do you see what I'm saying? There are factors that have nothing to do with my white skin of why I won't get a loan. Okay. Or for the fact that, excuse me, I'm sorry, nose is itching. Anyways, those are the things that you need to look at. It doesn't have to do with your skin color that makes you thing. It's how you handle yourself and perceive yourself, how you carry yourself. And if you carry yourself and you got your pants hanging down over your butt and you're walking around downtown and your junk is hanging out and you got a shirt over everything and stuff like that, there's nothing better than a subpar appearance. And it doesn't matter what your skin pigmentation is, whether it's a white person, a black person, a red person, or a yellow person. If you behave in a manner that basically is something that is not very uncouth or very, you're going to be treated accordingly. And that has nothing to do with skin color. That has to do with your behavior. Now, let's look at some other things for white privilege. Now, white privilege, being treated by the cops. I'm driving my car, I get pulled over. Cop comes up to me, asks for my ID. Okay. doesn't know who I am, but I don't know. Maybe I fit the description of a suspect they're looking for, right? So why can't you stop, listen to the cop, and say, "What's going on, officer?" And he's like going, "Well, we're looking for. Can I see your ID?" And the officer, "Your ID?" He runs you and everything else like that. He goes, "Okay, thanks a lot. Have a good day," because you probably didn't do anything wrong. But some of these guys want to stand around here and challenge the authority of the cops. Wrong thing. Don't challenge the authority of the cops. Larry Elder has said it best, and I've listened to him. He said, "Listen, if you are mishandled or mistreated by the cops, wait till you get to court. That's your best way to determine how to deal with police brutality, because you can make your case in the courtroom and you can win there. Don't fight the cop on the street, because 9 times out of 10 you're going to lose. We don't need to stand around here and have more people all over the place trying to fight police officers. Okay, let's talk about some other things. White privilege. Let's see. Okay, I'm not going to get followed by a store detective when I go into a store. I've been followed by a store detective when I go into the store. I go into the store, I look around, and I get followed by a store detective all the time. I just don't let it bother me, because I'm not there to steal anything. I'm there looking for something to purchase, and if there's nothing there to purchase, then I get out and leave. I might find something else I want to buy, and then I say, well, I don't want to buy it now, I'll buy it later, so then I'll come back later and get that. But the thing is, I'm making a note of, well, that's the item there that I need for not now, but later on, so I'll come back later and get it. So why do you worry about whether a store detective is going to follow you? You're not stealing anything anyway, so don't try. Don't feel so guilty about a store detective following you. Let them follow you. It's no skin off your back. You want white privilege? I mean, I don't let a store detective follow me around all day. And most stores now, they got cameras all overhead, and they can spy on you from a little room and stuff like that. So if they catch you stealing something, oh, excuse me. If they catch you stealing something, why, fess up to it, and when the police come, sign a guilty plea, turn around, pay the little fine that you got to pay for it later on, and get slapped on the wrist, and don't do it again. That's as simple as that. But if you want to stand around here and have criminal conduct, well, there's nothing I can do about that. That's all on you. Let's talk about other white privilege. Okay, white privilege people have more money, right? You want to know why the average white person has more money than the average black person? Because number one, the average white person doesn't devote his entire life to chasing down sports figures, knowing statistics and everything, and they look and do other things behind the scenes to basically ensure money. For instance, when I was working for the security company, I went to college. I was going to school. I was trying to advance my education. I turned around. I went to several technical trade schools in the process. I also went and took a course in the online trading academy, and I had to fight like heck to be able to do that, because they changed my work schedule, and I couldn't go to the class. I would work and work and work, and they would just keep me from and I paid lots of money to go to this class. So I did try to take advantage of my opportunities. Thing is, sometimes people will stand in the way of your opportunities. It's not fair, but that's not because of the color of your skin. That's because basically certain people just don't like you, period. And that's all there is to it. There's some people out there that just don't like you for who and what you are. You can't make people like you, no matter what it is. Now, if you understand that, that's a good thing. So this asshole over here, he gives you the N word. You don't have to deal with him. give them the finger and tell them to fuck off. You know, that's pretty much what it boils down to. You want white privilege? Okay, white privilege is simple. Number one, stay in school, graduate high school, don't have children out of wedlock. You know, don't have children out of wedlock. Um, don't start a crime spree and have a long impending criminal history, so you can't be hired. So you can't be hired for a job, because once you start having a criminal history, less and less employers will want to hire you. That's a fact of life. So that's white privilege, okay? And the thing is, not every white person lives up to white privilege, okay? So that's the other thing right there. We need to take a look at what white privilege is. White privilege, there's a cost to white privilege, which people in the black community don't seem to understand. And I think you all need to understand it. And it's like it's the price for doing what is right over what is popular. And I've found that a good number of people do what is popular rather than what is right. And that's the reason why you have white privilege. Not because of anything else, but that's just, and to tell you the truth, basically, in today's culture, the way things are right now, if you're African American, you probably have more privilege than I do. You know, you probably have more of a privilege than I do. Look, the thing is, it's real easy to have white privilege. You don't have to behave like a white person, but you know, you don't have to turn around and dress like a bum and walk down the street with your pants hanging down around your ankles. You don't need to basically do these things. And and the thing is, they call it's culture, right? And I've got no problem with culture. Culture is culture. Everyone has it. But is culture to basically turn around and abort 650,000 babies every year? Or is it cultural to shoot down over 6,000 people in American cities that happen to be black by other black people? Is it culture to basically do these things? Now, white people kill white people. Black people kill black people for the most part. But the majority of crimes are committed, even though black people are about 15% of the population. Basically, they commit almost 40% of all the crimes, the robberies, this, that, all the other things like that. The majority of the crimes, though, are perpetrated against other black people, not so many white people. And the thing is the fact that, okay, you want to know what white privilege is? We don't stand here and exalt criminals against us. We let the law handle it, and we don't turn around and exalt them. That's white privilege. You want to stop exalting criminals and stuff like that as martyr statuses and stuff like that, then okay, then you'll have white privilege. These are the things that you need to understand about white privilege. White privilege is hard. It's difficult. It's following the 10 Commandments. Love the Lord your God. No, thou shalt not have other gods before me. Don't worship any graven images. The list goes on and on, down from thou shalt not, thou shalt not commit murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor, which is also lying. How many people have basically lied to basically make themselves look better? I know I've done it a couple of times. Didn't mean to. When I realized I did it, I turned around. But being straightforward and stuff like that is the most honest thing you can do. And it's just kind of just like that. Having white privilege, it's not so much that, it's being responsible for your actions. And if it's anything of what white privilege is, that's what white privilege is, being responsible for your actions. So anybody can have white privilege. If you're responsible for your actions, that's white privilege. Okay? But that's privilege for anybody, not just people who are Caucasian. but that's privilege for anybody who's black or Asian or Hispanic or Oriental. It doesn't matter. When you have responsible behavior for yourself and live a responsible life, that gives you privilege over other people that have an irresponsible behavior and irresponsible life. And the thing is, most irresponsible people go to responsible people to help them because they're irresponsible. So let's talk about some other things that are important. These mobs that are going on in our American cities. Now, in Atlanta, the district attorney has pressed charges against the officer that shot the officer that shot let me see. I'll go back to it. The officer that shot Rayshard Brooks. Anyways, now the thing is, the police in Atlanta have now decided to basically have call in sick. So the majority of officers that usually patrol the streets and for crime and everything else like that are not coming in because this officer has been charged with murder, where the possible punishment would be the death penalty. Now, if you're a police officer and you're trying to uphold the law and enforce the law the way that you have been trained at the police academy and the way that your superiors want the law to be enforced, and then all of a sudden these same people turn around here and say, well, because you killed such and such, we're going to put the death penalty on you now. Well, that's anybody that's in law enforcement is going to be like, heck no, we aren't going there. Now, Atlanta PD or the city officials, they've called other local police departments to come in and help. And those local police departments, but they said, no way. You're not going to have my guy go into a trap like that. So Atlanta, you dug your own grave. And, you don't even have a completed investigation yet. You have a DA who's up for an election. And basically, so you want to be ruled by the mob. The mob is going to dictate what you're going to do as far as justice goes against a police officer that did what he was trained to do. That's what is sad. And for all those people and all those police officers in Atlanta that are called in sick and don't want to come to work, why would you want to come to work? Because if you go to work that night, that's quite possibly that you could end up being, by the time your duty is over, if you come back alive, that you could turn around and have a murder charge hanging on your head by the district attorney. This is what happens when you let the mob rule. And the same thing with the mayor in Seattle and the governor of Washington State. I say to you both, you are a bunch of weak people. And you are not a person of strength of character. Because if you were a person of strength and character, you would put down this right away, or you would call the governor and say, listen, I need help to put this thing down now. Not let these people go on and on and on and on, night after night after night, creating a basically city called Chaz, area where, somebody called 911, for an ambulance to come to take them to the hospital. And guess what? The ambulance couldn't get through because the police couldn't get through, because you have hordes of people out there who basically have closed up the entire border of the city. Now people are dying because of the mob. Mob rule is what we have in a good number of our American cities these days. Mob rule, and it's being sanctioned by the news media, and it's being sanctioned by Democrats in political power right now that are in charge of these cities. Now, here's something to think about, okay? And that is, for all you people who live in these cities that are basically, you're going around torching stuff and everything else like that, guess what? This is exactly what these people want you to do. The reason why they're doing it is because, number one, they don't care about you at all one bit. Because one day they're going to say, okay, enough is enough. They're going to put it down. And, they're not going to worry about your constitutional rights. You know what they are going to do? They're going to shoot first and ask questions later. This is the beginning. This would be the beginning of like a Bolshevik revolution. This is what the Bolsheviks did. They went after the people that, were, violent hordes against the Tsar and the family of the Tsar, which was the king of Russia at the time. And they turned around, and as soon as the communists took over and took control of the country, what's the first thing they did? All the agitators disappeared overnight. They killed them. Well, what do you think is going to happen here once the communists and the socialists take over our American cities? All you agitators, you're going to find yourself missing. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And, so keep going. I say keep going. This is going to continue until you people that are protesting know that you're being used and stop. You getting angry over something that didn't even happen in your own city and protesting. I can understand people protesting in Minneapolis for the George Floyd thing. Got no problem with that. I got no problem people protesting in Atlanta for what happened to the thing, because number one, they were told a lie. Number two, the thing is, they also torched the Wendy's that had nothing to do with Rayshard Brooks' arrest, other than the fact that he pulled into a drive-through lane and fell asleep behind the wheel of a car because he was intoxicated. Excuse me. So here's something for y'all to think about, and I want you to think really, really good about this. The subjects that I covered tonight, between being arrest and white privilege and other things, anybody can have privilege in a society. The problem is, do you have the moral strength of character to keep privilege, or are you something that's going to go down to your lowest common denominator? It's a hard life to try to live up to certain standards. It's not easy. It's not easy to lie, cheat, and steal, because everybody wants to get ahead. In fact, before the United States came along, and the American way of life came along, that's what people did. They stole from other people. That's what it did. You win, I win, you lose. I took everything from you. Well, this is what we're bringing back now, this mob mentality. Well, I have a solution to all this, and it's pretty simple. And that is, if the police departments are unwilling or unable to take back the city, then I think some people that are like-minded should stand up there. I think you should be armed with a paintball gun, cattle prod, and a sidearm pistol, just in case last scenarios, and go into some of these hotbeds where people are rioting and protesting, and get some plastic cuffs and cuff people up, leave them on the street with a sign saying this person is arrested, and call the police and have these people arrested. Tie them up, put them on the street, have the cops come pick them up. And that's what I think needs to be done, because we need to start taking back our American cities from these mobs and hordes of people. And then we need to find out where they're getting their backing from. And I wouldn't be surprised the backing goes all the way to George Soros. The billionaire George Soros. Why do you think George is doing this? He's doing this to make money off of you, because if you're going to be so inflated and everything else like that, George is making money right now because the American dollar is falling against other currencies right now because of what's happening in the country. You understand? This is why George is doing these things. He's doing this to make money. And all you people out there who basically think you're doing this for some kind of social justice and better change and this and that, you're living in the freest country in the world. Now, it may not be fair to everybody. you're right. It's not fair to everybody, but most people who are law-abiding citizens go to work every day, do what they're supposed to do, try to help their fellow man, and everything else like that. You will be rewarded. But for those of you who basically want to live in another type of lifestyle where you don't want to be there for your fellow neighbor, or don't want to help out, or you don't want to do anything that's going to be important for your community, you know, all I could say is you're going to get exactly what you just deserve. And that's either going to be you're going to end up getting killed, or you're going to have to go into jail, or you're going to end up going to prison eventually. And that's what it boils down to. Are you going to live a good life, or are you going to live a life that basically no one wants you around? You can't tell other people what to do, but all you can do is work on yourself. And, you know, the left is the thing as well. We need to correct the police department. The police department is corrected about as well as you can. They still have to apprehend people who break the law. And if you take the teeth away from the officers out there on the street to enforce the law, then you're turning around and let the lawless people run everything, which is what is happening right now. Lawless people are in charge. Mobs are in charge. They're influencing government officials who are weak and cannot command respect and authority. Look at the mayor of Minneapolis. I mean, he goes down there trying to identify with all these protesters. Now, he had nothing in common with these protesters. I wouldn't have gone down there either. I would have turned around and said, justice will be served. Man, I would have addressed the public. Justice will be served, and the officers that are responsible will be held to account. And that's that. Wouldn't have turned around and done anything else. And I would have turned around as the mayor and I said, but I'm not going to tolerate vandalism, and I'm not going to tolerate riots. And if any rioting happens, I'm going to have the police out here arresting people left and right until there's no more riots. That's what I would have done as the mayor of Indianapolis. So, to the rest of everybody, I want to say, and I want to wish you a very, very good night. God bless you. May the Lord keep you, bless you, and shine his face upon you and his countenance upon you. You know, these are strange times today, and we must put our faith where our faith is, and that's with God. Because that's the only person, that's the only person that we can actually have true faith in. We can't put our faith in the president. We can't put our faith in our governors or our senators or congressmen or state legislatures. We have to put our faith in ourselves and our God, and that's what we need to do. So whatever religion you are, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Christian, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Hindu, you know, putting faith in God is the best thing that you can do for yourself. So by all means, I want to say good night, God bless, and take care of yourself. So long and good night.